Brian always thinks we lose the book.
How is it?
So what?
Looked like it's horizontal when I came.
It was. It was like only in my face.
Now I'm here in sunshine this afternoon.
Which is crazy.
What's that?
I hate it here.
Hippie weather. You know everything on your phone's true.
Absolutely.
Probably.
I give up. I'm going.
I'm done.
I think my boss will take that as an excuse.
All right, well, we're back to finish up chapter 4. It's interesting, the way all this started. I started you off on this project first. That's pretty much chapter 5, 6, and the first half of 7. Okay, so we're going to jump from 4, we get through with this, to the back end of 7, because you guys have already been through data management, data cleaning, all the algorithms, and the neural network. So then we're going to go into how this stuff never stops, which is monitoring and maintenance, and then we'll be off in the world of generative AI. So we can all lose our minds together. All right, KPIs, electronic commerce companies, as you know, they're all using machine learning to optimize their campaigns. This particular company decided to use click-through rate. This is early days. When they first got started on this, everybody was all excited about stickiness and click-through rate. Okay, so you get the recipients who click on a link within the email. Some links are informational, some links are buying stuff. That's click-through rate. It can be a positive indicator of engagement, but it may not correlate with meaningful business outcomes, which means you've got a fancy metric on your hands. The good news is this all comes under business professionals. You'll have to decide this. And if you have a big, heavy-duty click-through rate, but people are just looking for information, looking for products, and it doesn't translate to sales, then it's not going to reflect the impact on revenue. Now, that's straightforward. I can't remember the company. They were putting, there's a big debate because they had a lower click-through rate when they had multiple images on a page, and they decreased the number of images. Their click-through rate went up, and they were very happy because it translated to additional sales. Look, what are you looking at here? A/B experiments. If you don't like your click-through rate and you've got something going on that you're not sure with, like we said, Google has a very sparse splash page. Amazon does not. You can just do A/B experiments, and they do those all the time. Ocado, that's the supermarket company in Great Britain. They are very heavily into fulfillment centers, just like Amazon is. They're heavily roboticized, and so what they want to do, they want to check their warehouse automation systems exactly like Amazon's. They've implemented it slightly differently, but the bots are doing the work. So they pick these KPIs, order fulfillment, 0 errors gets interesting. The bots are picking the orders and actually putting them in the carts that go to the customers. So we don't have a human in that loop. So it did impact customer satisfaction and reduced returns, which was helpful. Then, of course, number of customer orders processed per hour. This standard stuff. By the way, did I have that before bots? Those bots are not different. Before I put bots in, I had humans doing it. The exact same KPIs. Okay, but now, of course, these are things have gone up exponentially. Increase. Space utilization, that's great, especially because the bots will self-organize, and there's a learning phenomenon going on here that is what we call an emergent capability. They were not programmed to do that. They will discover themselves which items are picked the most, and they'll store those shelves closer to the packing station. Perishable goods is a whole different thing. You guys know this. It's like the, what do they call it? Cold supply chains. Perishable goods, very scary. when you see product recalls, people getting sick, a lot of times that comes off perishable goods. If you can improve inventory routing and the number of inventory turns, fantastic. A lot of work going on now with energy. There's a big debate going on right now about why are our electrical bills increasing so rapidly. I'm not talking about heating oil or anything. I'm talking about electricity. It was originally thought that the data centers, the giant data centers that are going up, were jacking up orders. That now is being questioned. I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but I do know the electrical bills are increasing. It's not real good if you have electric heat going in the winter. But so everybody has started, most everybody has started looking at, you'll see it listed as sustainability. It's also energy, okay? Companies are paying very close attention to green energy, all right? So energy consumption per order KPI. Now they did avoid vanity metrics. What they're trying to do here with robot movement, they wanted to come up with, they're using reinforcement learning. So these robots had to learn by trial and error. And the number of movements you want to decrease. And this also translates into the path that they take. So I want to minimize the length of the path, and I want to minimize their movements. Well, this is well and good, but that is a purely technical KPI. It didn't correlate with actual fulfillment. What threw this off here with fulfillment was the fact that these bots first had to learn how to move, how to minimize their paths, but then they also started learning where to put the shelves that we just talked about. So they got this thing fouled up and they quit looking at it. The routing algorithms, well, that's well and good. This is where you come into the trial and error. This is purely technical professionals. If you're a business professional and you're looking at this, you're just looking for the motor. Okay, it's not going to help you. Yeah.
With like robots being able to track their progress and use incentives, if you sign up for Smart Peak Rewards with Alabama Power, every time that like you are supposed to have like a heat wave and your power bill would go up, they like prep it in time and like automatically through like your device that uses Wi-Fi, they tone down like your cost, and then they'll send you $25 gift card in the mail.
Okay, now how this is like come to your house? Okay, so are they measuring just total electrical consumption in the house?
Yeah.
And how are they tamping it down?
They when there's supposed to be like a peak, like in August, it reached like 102 or something heat index. I believe it was like the night before they like ramp up your AC, and then at the peak of like how hot it's supposed to get, they'll like turn off your AC completely to like reduce power. And then because you helped provide green energy and reduce power in like your community, they'll send you a $25 reward.
What?
No, just every time it
Flat
happens.
fee?
Yeah.
Okay, so my electricity goes off at 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's not worth $25.
I'm trying to figure out how that works.
No.
Or you could be watching TV and watch somebody,
Yeah.
your bandwidth has gone out. Remember the old dial-up days? Well, you guys don't. My generation remembers dial-up days.
Yeah.
They're trying that.
Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know how well it works. Now that I like think through it out loud, it probably isn't worth it. But it's nice to get it in the mail. So it must be working for
Take the
people like
20,
me.
take the 25.
Yeah.
Buy 1/4 of a steak.
Yeah.
All right. So the Cato goes out. They demonstrated their use to the business people, especially the check writers. Notice the 50-item order in under 5 minutes, not about 2 hours for a human picker. You know, this is fascinating they're even bothered about this because it's been long since proven. And storage density, that gets really fascinating because you get more utilization out of your warehouses. when you want to set, I was talking about ROI, you got to be very careful because your C-level people are going to measure ROI as fast as they can. Remember, 90-day thinkers, do not forget that. These projects require time. Why? Just put training out beside this. There's often a learning curve naturally. You're going to have to overcome objections. We talked about change management. There's your learning curve, as well as the learning curve of the algorithms. Full benefits are not going to come online immediately, especially if you're testing. And by the way, it took over a year for UPS to get through with all their training. And they do improve over time as you ingest more data. So you've got to pay attention to not very rapid ROI. One company executive wanted to look at loss avoidance, potential impact of business attrition. His competitors are moving very quickly in machine learning, so you get the FOMO, fear of missing out. So they wanted to jump right in. By the way, that will scare executives if your competition is putting machine learning in. So they staff call centers for a large European automaker. Right? Now, they felt like they're going to lose the business to competitors if they didn't invest in machine learning. Now, if I'm in a call center situation, I'm going to have to use natural language processing. It's going to have to be instantaneous. I'm probably going to need instantaneous translation. So if you're going to lose the call center business, thought they could use other related business. That's not bad thinking, except for the fact that when you look at this, you say, okay, is that a good reason to get into machine learning? It's one reason I put it at the bottom. All the others, remember we started off with you've got to have available data. Okay. Back in the start of chapter 4. Rolls-Royce came up with Total Care, and they've got all this historical data, and their engines, as you know, power a lot of internal combustion, jets, cars, etc. And they want to predict, measures downtime, this is good, decreases in unscheduled maintenance. If you get the early problem detection, things are a whole lot better. And it monitors cost savings. That's outstanding, particularly with jet aircraft. So they had to get their baseline before they deployed the system. And what's the baseline? Well, they measured their engine's capabilities. They measured when you had to do maintenance on them, et cetera. And then they still conduct quarterly performance reviews. They use dashboards. These are interesting because what you're looking at here, prediction accuracy, maintenance cost savings, what they've got there is when was the prediction made that that engine was going to need maintenance? How did it fit in versus the scheduled maintenance? And did I save any money? So their loop, you had to include maintenance teams, of course, and the operators, the airlines that own their engines, they provide data on the performance and failure. That really works out well. So it's a virtuous feedback loop, and it increases the accuracy and effectiveness. So all the airlines that are using Rolls-Royce engines, jet engines, feed data to that system. And that's what it looks like. That's pretty simple. I'm not sure what their refresh rate is. I don't think it's too rapid. And then Coca-Cola. You've seen their freestyle machines in all the movie theaters, etc. Have you ever watched somebody from my generation stand in front of one of those machines? Just think of your professor looking at that with the grandkids at a movie going. Then having their grandson, get out of the way, we get the Coke. And he punches all these buttons. This is not easy. I'm serious. So they got this freestyle machine, and what they want to do is let customers create custom beverage mixes. What the heck? Here it is. Got all this. You got all kind of drinks and stuff. I'm used to the days when they just hand you the Coke. Am I asking too much? So they had multiple stakeholders, actually the executives, marketing. What's interesting, the consumers were hooked into this. Everybody in the whole machine learning stack is involved. Let's add in the consumers, not my group. So they had stakeholder requirements. Notice what happened here. The executive team, increase sales, gather consumer data. Any executive team, what's their overall goal? Make more money. Okay, so you do the translation. Marketing people, consumer preferences, obviously. IT now, system security and integration with existing infrastructure. I will tell you now, this gets subsumed into these two every single time. Data science is, of course, algorithm accuracy and data quality. This is great. Notice, consumers. When you say intuitive interface to my generation, there's nothing intuitive about all those buttons. Okay? And I really wish I had a video the first time I stood in one of those machines. I really do. My grandson threatened to video me because I was getting hot. So, but they also wanted a wide variety of drink options. Well, I will tell you frankly, it needs to be intuitive. If it's intuitive, you can figure out the drink options. Well, as you can see, they had conflicts. And the conflicts were evidenced in the movie theaters by boomers not being able to get their drink and jamming the lines up. I'm speaking from experience. So to get this detailed consumer data from marketing insights, I just wish I'd had one of those questionnaires. I really do. I would have sent the video in if I could have. And it conflicted with the security concerns and the privacy expectations. What in the world? You guys have a privacy concern over whether you get a cherry Coke or a real Coke? No. I'm just curious. I have no idea. Now, they did have their usual discussions among internal and external stakeholders naturally. They implemented a system that anonymized consumer data. I know, I feel better. And they got the marketing needs and privacy concerns down, but that seemed like overkill. But those machines, I swear, the younger generation swears by them. We don't have any in the building here, do we? Do we on campus? I feel much better. So they had to establish their communication plan. By the way, you will keep consumers and stakeholders happy. Monthly reports, naturally, weekly updates here for the marketing teams, real-time performance dashboards, naturally. Do business professionals care much about this? No, the analysts do. And then consumers, I love this, updates about new flavors. You had to sign up for that, okay, to get updates on this. Mostly when you walk up to the machine, if there's something new on there, the kids all know about it. But notice, boomers, another app on your phone is the KOD, the Kiss of Death. None of us want to put a Coca-Cola machine freestyle app on our phone. That goes with you guys. And I thought that was a hoot. I've actually watched people sitting there in front of that machine doing that. Woo-hoo. Okay, you're going to get into ethics. The best thing that you can think of, or the worst thing, is machine learning facial recognition. Now, Clearview is a leading facial recognition company which has been sued almost into extinction because of their training. They do provide facial recognition software primarily to law enforcement and government agencies. Okay, you guys can imagine Wednesday, October the 29th, what a fiasco facial recognition is with law enforcement and any other agency. We've talked about facial recognition, false positives, false negatives. What a horror it is to have a false positive. And it's gotten to be now, over the last probably a few years, every defense attorney in the country, I'm not sure what's going on globally, but I know here, the very first thing they do is they warrant the police department. You must say whether or not you use facial recognition software. Okay? No questions, no tears. Every defense attorney will say that first. And they will get the data, and then they have a fascinating discussion on What system did you use? Oh, I use Clearview, or we use Clearview. And okay, what are your false positive rates? How confident are you? And it just turned out to be let's say nicely, it's been a problem. So they do have a database. Notice they predict faces. They don't match them. They predict them to more than, they've got 20 billion images that they collected from the internet. Some of those images are copyrighted. I mean, all of ours should be, unless we gave permission. Well, can you say they've been criticized? Yes, they've been sued for their lack of transparency about its technology. What does this mean? What's your neural network doing? How's it making its predictions? What are false positives, false negatives? What are accuracy, precision, recall? All of which you guys know about. So if somebody shows up at your door and puts the cuffs on you or stops your car and does that, then your defense attorney is going to say, we're going to put it out in the open. Now, I'm going to translate this when we get to generative AI into you guys cheating using GPT. It's the exact same thing. False positives, false negatives, what are you using, and all this kind of stuff. This is where they are. Notice, limited information on the algorithms that analyze the images, especially scraped off the internet. Clearview has taken the position, on occasion, that our neural networks are black boxed. Oh, that's not going to work. Not when you're talking about law enforcement, okay? Or picking somebody up on the street in an ICE raid. Okay, it's the exact same thing. My guess is that Clearview will report pretty good metrics, but they're not able to walk you through with your face to their neural network and explain every step of the way. And so naturally, if you got a lack of transparency and explainability, okay, you guys are all on a jury. Every one of you are on a jury. And I'm the defendant. And I've been identified with facial recognition software as a perpetrator of this particular crime. And you guys get to listen to the defense attorney attack the system. Not the police officer, not the police department, the system that he or she used. It'd be real interesting. What do y'all think about that? You know, obviously it's different in every case. Facial recognition at night is different from daytime. Today is a crappy day outside with rain. Sunglasses, baseball hats, people of color. We've not done a good job with that. And so you can see how you would fit on this. Now, translate that into you're sitting on a jury for a student who's suing their university for getting kicked out of there for using GPT. We're going to come back to that. Their facial recognition has raised privacy concerns. Look, it's not just Clearview. This technology is going to raise privacy concerns regardless. Okay? For example, I imagine every one of our images has been scraped off the internet in this room. Did we give permission? Absolutely not. Notice, without explicit consent. In other words, none of us opted in. Okay? Which also means none of us are able to opt out. Okay, once we're digitized, and all of us are, can you opt out? Too late. It's too late. And of course, certainly been heavy-duty legal challenges on violating privacy rights. So, once you get through with all of that, the back end of chapter 4 is the deployment process, which you guys are going through on your projects. So I'm only going to touch on a few things. We've already talked about you're going to predict data prediction based on, by the way, we all know machine learning is nothing but make predictions, okay? Events have already happened, real time, future oriented, we talked about that. Why instead of if. And then all the way through, we talked about prediction, classification, text optimization, et cetera. I want to go back and just touch on the deployment goal and the prediction I'm going to look at fraud detection on Capital One. Same thing with any credit card company, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. Notice their deployment goal. I want to reduce fraud losses by 20% within 12 months. This is strictly made up, not actual data, but it's not unusual. Reduce these losses within a year of deployment. Notice within a year means they're giving it time for you to develop an ROI while you're training the system, continue to train it. They want to maintain a false positive rate below 2% to minimize your transactions that are legitimate that get declined. This is not bad, okay? I made it up, but it's not a bad look at it. It aligned with their business strategy naturally. Don't irritate your customers. Keep your costs down. Because it does cost every time you have false positive. Okay. Their prediction goal. Not their deployment goal, their prediction goal. I want to identify these transactions real time, preferably before they're authorized. And we already talked about this. If you do get a fraudulent prediction coming through or a transaction, I don't think the company doesn't pay it. Vendor does. Okay, so they want to get immediate action, and this has happened. You've all been flagged like this. Binary classification, fraudulent or legitimate. Now, the timing, they're going to get as close to real time as they possibly can. That's outstanding, especially at point of sale. Now, two types of point of sale, physical and electronic. Okay, so I've got point of sale data and I've got clickstream. I can do this, then I can back into what my overall business goal is. Okay, that's great. We've got all those metrics. And so what I want to do, I'd really also like to predict why instead of if. So you can flag transactions as suspicious. This is great. Kick them out. You know, even if it's false positive, we're still okay because our company's working for us. And notice, it'd be great. This is the if here. It's either legitimate or it's fraudulent. Now, I want to figure out what's behind it. So I'm looking for risk factors contributing to the fraud prediction. And here it is, right here. That's you. All of us have a normal behavior customer digital profile. You guys have been using credit card for years. Okay, so they've got a real profile built on you. And as they build that profile, as you have more and more transactions, then it gets more and more and more precise. And so I imagine all of you have had an unusual transaction that suddenly showed up and perhaps you were traveling or it turned out to be larger than expected or so forth. But this is your baseline, your digital profile. And so what they want to do, they say, this is great if we flag the transaction, but let's figure out how to explain it. There's too many customers, too many transactions to probably work down to an N of one, but with certain groups, they can identify these factors. It'd be great if you could explain all of them. This is pretty simple with flagging these fraudulent transactions. Where it gets difficult is medical diagnoses, which we're desperate to get correct, just to get the cost down. Or using facial recognition, if you will. So there are certain things that have a whole lot more weight on them. All right, so if you're going to do this, you've got to work on this. I've got to classify them. It's a binary system. You've got to detect them based on patterns, based on your profile. My profile is more dense than yours, and Linda's profile is much more dense than mine. So the prediction predicts probability. This gets interesting. Where are you going to cut it off? If I'm going to flag you guys for a fraudulent transaction, what percentage am I going to use? Probability is 99.9, 99.5. If the probability goes down, It's at 95 versus 99, what happens? False positives go up. Okay, and then of course, you guys are gonna get into this. How much optimization do you wanna do? In other words, you're the business professionals. You know what's gonna happen if your false positives go up, a lot of complaints. But once you got this, you still have to have high fraud detection rates. You'll be doing this all the time. It's okay, it's all right. Technical metrics, 95%, false positive rate below 2, response time under 50 thousandths of a second. That's great. Your business KPIs. Okay, this is wonderful as long as these translate. I think they're going to have to run higher than that on fraud detection rate. But, I mean, out of 1 billion transactions every few months, I mean, you're going to have a lot of them. So, reduce losses. I want to decrease manual review costs because this will have to go to a human. And a little bit of an increase, less than that much of an increase in complaints. That's not bad. They did come up, I did read one place where one of their fraud losses went down 22%, which is great. That was a couple of years ago. And it's interesting. It was actually providing some explanations that help service representatives. Here's what happens. You get your transaction kicked, and you're going to call the number that tells you to call, and you're going to have to speak to a human. You do not want to speak to a chatbot. Especially on, well, actually, that's not true on any transaction that gets kicked, especially if you know it's legitimate. They're going to have to explain it. It's very helpful if the system gives some explanation. Otherwise, you're just sitting there. Talent acquisition. You're the HR folks and you're hiring. So here's what you want to do. Here's your deployment goal. I want to make it faster and easier to hire somebody. I do want to increase new hire quality. Notice, how do I examine this? New hire quality, can you do this beforehand? No. Once they're hired, you measure them by performance reviews and retention. After the fact. And then I want to improve diversity in technical roles. This is happen to be, these are deployment goals. And those are Microsoft strategic objectives. Well, how many people did Microsoft fire yesterday? 18,000 corporate employees? Was that Amazon? I can't remember which one. Amazon? People didn't want to come back to work.
Amazon fired 30,000 people.
Have they gotten to 30,000 yet? I heard it was 18 this morning, going to 30.
It was 30 last time I heard.
Yeah.
30. Okay, so they've already, and those are all what they call corporate employees. These aren't folks from the fulfillment centers. The word was Amazon was having some difficulty with folks who didn't want to return to the office.
Well, I think it also came from, it was that and they hired too many people during COVID, whenever everyone was just hiring.
So just shaving back. Okay, so their prediction goal, they had to predict job performance and retention likelihood, which you do with every person you hire, to identify high potential candidates. Notice potential. And remaining in the company for at least 2 years. Oh, that's great. Those are a combination of approaches. Past event, you can check on work history and accomplishments. If you're coming out of school, they don't have any of this on you. They've got your major and your GPA. Okay? Plus anything that you guys could do to differentiate yourselves. Coming to Auburn University is a differentiator, right? Your next differentiator is your major. We can all major in fine arts. No question about it. Your major. And then as long as we're doing branded hiring, it's your GPA. Okay, recruiters look for W's. See how many courses you decide to drop. Recruiters are starting to look at how long you're here because they're not looking for John Belushi in Animal House. You know, when did you get here? 1956. You know, you don't do that. Now they're starting to look at, did you do anything to differentiate, to truly differentiate yourself? Taking a difficult class. having a skill set no one else has, having something interdisciplinary, going outside the normal major. Anything is different, okay? Internships help, but when you look at this, just understand what they're looking at here. They're hiring you. The real time, the interview responses, you guys have all had interview. Don't they tape you guys on the interview stuff? They give we do, what do you call it, warm-up interviews or training interviews?
Mock interviews.
I mean,
Mock interviews.
mock interviews, yeah, and assessments. I hope that, do they really get after you in those things, or is it just too much of a set piece?
I mean,
Some interviews get wild.
I did some mock interviews for freshmen this week.
Reggie,
Yeah.
okay. How many gas stations are there in Atlanta?
How many gas stations? Several hundred.
You're being interviewed. I want to see if you can think, and quickly. And can you think out of the box? I don't care how many there are. I want to know how you guys come up with a figure. I'm here. It's 11:36. How many gas stations would you estimate there are in Atlanta, and how? Don't fall asleep here. The clock's ticking. You don't have ChatGPT.
I mean, I guess based off of population and then like how big the region is.
I need a number.
500.
500. Okay, I have a bid for 500. This man get the job. Okay, here's what you would ask GPT. Say, give it to me step by step. So you guys have to think right now. How'd you come up with 500?
I was just thinking like different counties, and there's 4 or 5 counties, there's anywhere between 50 and 100 in each county.
Atlanta has 5 or 6 counties. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so 50. Okay, that's one way to go at it. Okay, so we have a bid for 500. Not bad. At least you're thinking about counties and population.
Yeah, I like his logic. I'll go with 500.
So if this were the price right, you'd say 501. Let's spare the rest of you guys. I need to bring coffee in here or something.
I'm from San Antonio, so I'd probably draw on that because I don't really know much about Atlanta, but like it's also a big city. I think like in my area that I live, I can probably think of 40-ish gas stations, and that's probably
3?
40-ish.
Okay.
That's probably 5% of the city or something like that I'm like aware of and can think about that deeply. So then I'd probably do that math. So 40 times 20.
Okay, let's do the
whatever that
math. That's 5%.
is. So 40 times
That's
20.
1/20th. So it'd be 40 times 20 or
800.
8,000.
8,000.
No, 800. You're right. God, that's dental math. 800. So 500 to 800.
I was gonna say 900.
Hmm?
I was gonna say 900.
900. You're going to try to just squeeze out the bid. Okay, 589. How many gas stations do y'all figure in Auburn?
I'd say about 20.
20?
Way more.
You're cheating.
Let's stay with 20. I think there's probably 50, but let's try 20. 20 in Auburn. What's the population of Auburn?
Depending on if students, but if students, about 60,000, 70,000.
Without students or with?
With.
Okay, so without 33.
Around 30, yeah.
Okay, 30. What's the population of Atlanta?
Like 800,000 people.
What, 3.6 million?
Does that count? Does that count like the surrounding
The
suburbs?
greater Atlanta
Oh,
area.
okay.
Okay, so I divide 30,000 into 3 million. What's that, 100? 100 times 20 is 2,000. Okay, so 5, 8, 9, 901, 501, and 2,000. Here's what they're looking for. They just want to see if you can think. It's not so much that you come up with a number, it's can you explain how you got to it? And that's what I'm talking about. So they interview these things, and a lot of people are a little bit tired of saying, what's your favorite hobby? So they will ask you a lot of scenarios. Now, what I want you to do is understand that you may be very well be hiring here next year. Once you're on the job, they love to have new people interviewing people. So the real time, you're going to interview the responses of these folks. Then you get future oriented where you're going to forecast them naturally. Okay. Suppose I generate videos of scenarios. You sit there and you watch them and you get to evaluate them. Scenarios don't run real long and they're easy to create, and they say, how would you handle this situation? And it's a situation specific to the job that you are being interviewed for. Okay, that's where they're going to go in this situation here. Generative AI will do that. All right, so there's talent acquisition. Why, if you only predict if a candidate will succeed, okay, that's yes, no. Now they're looking for the specific factors. How do they get this? They look at people you've hired before. And notice collaboration patterns, problem-solving approaches, which is what you guys are all thinking there, getting nervous. Do you have any learning agility? Well, you did. Seriously, if you were under pressure and we were actually interviewing you, you're sitting there in a coat and tie, you would have thought of something. Or if I'd said that's 10 points on your final grade. Okay, and values align with culture. Okay, that also comes up. Those are tricky questions. Notice prediction, classification, detection, optimization. Make the prediction here. Look for skill sets. This is interesting. Potential team fit. You are guessing emotional quotient here. Do they play well with others? I'll give you a classic question. You're on a team, you're the team lead, and your project that you're leading on went south. You have 7 team members around the world, a couple in Europe, a couple in Asia, a couple here, and you're over time and you're over budget. As a team lead, you're going to get called in to your superiors and you're going to report on your project. What do you do? Oh, and by the way, one of your team members is a malignant narcissist who caused you ulcers and probably the ultimate failure of the project. What do you do as team lead?
Take responsibility. Yeah, take accountability for it.
Total. You walk in, you're the captain of the Titanic. No reason to throw Fred under the bus. Your boss probably already knows about Fred. Okay, you take full responsibility. You go in there by yourself. Okay. Now, suppose your project does really well. You're on time, you're under budget, the customer's happy. What do?
Credit your team.
Take them on there with you. If they're there physically, they go with you, and if they're not, you zoom them in at the same time. And make sure that he did this, she did that, she did this, and this is what we did. And they'll ask you that. What would you do in a situation like that? I like this here. Leadership potential. You know what? We're getting some really gushy areas here. That's tough. Good question. You're getting ready to get promoted. What's the one thing they're going to ask you? I'm going to promote you as of January the 1st. What do I need to know about that promotion? I'm your boss.
Expectations. Or are you looking at like a
Now,
wider
I'm talking
scope?
about what's the boss going to ask you? You're the ones getting promoted.
Oh.
What are they really concerned with?
Can you handle it?
Well, they wouldn't be promoting you if they weren't sure about that already. What's the thing people,
They'd be asking if you know anybody to take your place.
Exactly. Who do you say could take your place? And in other words, who did you train? As soon as you guys have one direct report, you have just become teachers. Every single one of you will be a teacher. Now, if you're not overtly teaching, you'll be covertly teaching because people will watch you. Okay? So when they're going to want to know, who do you think would be best in this job? Maybe in your team, maybe somebody in another team that you know, that sort of thing. Okay? And then you always refine algorithms. But what's really interesting here, to reduce unconscious bias while maintaining predictive accuracy. Bias comes through in a number of ways. HR is really tricky, as you all know. Those algorithms are tough. So their technical metrics, I'm surprised they would come up with 80% accuracy in predicting high performance. That seems to be Pollyannish there. Bias detection and mitigation, that's fine. But while we're doing this, let's just do under 5 minutes per application. Look. This is branded hiring. We're going to go to skills-based hiring, okay? And we're going to end up with thousands of people applying for a job, and you're going to have scenarios or exams to take driven by machine learning that narrow the pyramid. And when you finally get to here and here, you're going to have a limited number of people that have left after going through the machine learning hiring process. So this is fine. All this works well, but right now we're doing branded hiring. Being as we're in an AI class, we're going to have to decide where AI agents fit in here, okay, for hiring. So they did have good results, that's fine. And it did try to identify non-traditional indicators of success. What's fascinating here is we're having a resurgence of liberal arts people getting picked up by various companies because a lot of them think outside the box. They're not standard B school people. Okay. Graduate admissions. Notice quality and diversity of admitted students, reducing the application review time within 2 cycles over a year. That's great. Your strategic executives at a university are the usual, pretty much as we do in companies. We're just slower. I'm going to try to predict academic success. 3.3 GPA to get into graduate school, complete your degree within the expected time frame. That's fine. You're going to look at historical data. Same thing coming into Auburn as an undergraduate. We do have a few more questions for you. But then they're going to use historical data. They're going to try to make a prediction. Can you get through the program? Notice, I'm going to predict succeed or not. And then I would look at certain factors. This is interesting because when you see here, this is for the research side of things. There are a lot of schools that will not even look at you if you don't have business experience, okay, especially the master's, MBA programs. And we do the usual, all this. Unique strengths, that's really going to lie in the areas of business experience, and then you continue, of course, to refine. But likelihood of success, it costs us a lot of money to run a PhD program. Okay, you don't pay any tuition. You're actually on salary because you're teaching for us, and so you're kind of an expense other than the teaching that you do. And then we look for these models, and I was telling you, the absolute worst job in a university is undergraduate admissions. The second worst job is when you're on a faculty and you're reviewing people for graduate school. That's difficult. This particular system had some success. It's 4 years to get a PhD. It's much quicker for a master's. Okay, now, you go into this, everything we're talking about there has all been warm up before you feed data into your models. And you deploy a system, a machine learning system, and we've been through all these cases. You look at this and you say, okay, all that driven by business professionals. You're gonna run the models, technical people will get in there to play. Then the model runs. And when you do, you never quit. Okay? So on Monday, we're gonna talk about monitoring. Monitoring drives maintenance. You're gonna have to change these models. Okay? And that's what we'll talk about. All right? See you then. Somebody GPT how many gas stations are in there.